Eclectic Arts viewers. We're here in the end of January 2018, and we're doing our first video interview. And we are here at Naked City Taphouse in Seattle, Washington, the flagship location, because now there's two locations.
Yeah.
And we're here with Mr. Don Webb, the owner and proprietor and brewmaster and everything you can think of. So welcome, Don.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, thanks for doing the interview. This is going to be awesome to finally get to talk about beer with somebody for Eclectic Arts. I've kind of done some stuff for the blog and things of that nature, but never on video. So off we go. Yeah. So for those that haven't been to Naked City, either locally or people that are going to be traveling here as tourists, how would you describe the establishment?
I mean, we really wanted to. I mean, it was kind of the what we are now is kind of what we had always intended to be, is kind of that neighborhood gathering place, you know, that local place that the community can come out and enjoy some good food and good beer and good conversation and that. And we've kind of expanded that with that in the screening room and that over the years to add some different cultural events and that. But really a local, just neighborhood gathering place, an extension of your living room, I guess, if you will. So
it's very nice. Makes it so you're looking for comfort, you're looking for good people, and good vibes for sure.
Exactly.
Yeah, and so if you go back 10 years, which we were talking about earlier, it's kind of hard to believe. What were your kind of at least initial goals for Naked City when you started out?
I mean, we really wanted to again be that local pub that not just as you remember, I don't know, you know, those early days, the first year we didn't have a brewery in the back. So it was always the intention to bring the brewery in, but we had to go through some zoning issues and that sort of thing till we could finally bring that. But it was always our plan to have a variety of guest taps, and that we really wanted this to be a place that you could celebrate craft beer and really support other craft brewers and that. So that was kind of the initial intention, and we've kind of carried that through by adding 16 more taps 2 years ago. And out of 40 taps, you know, we usually rotate between 12 and 16 of ours, and then the rest are devoted to other craft brewers, mostly Northwest, West Coast craft brewers. So.
Wow, so 40 taps. So people should be able to find something they're gonna like. But.
Exactly, and if you're not a beer drinker, we also have 6 cider taps and 4 wine taps, and so something for everyone, we hope.
Awesome. When I think back to those early days, I just remember being in it. Maybe it's because of the area of Greenwood at that time. It was kind of starving for something like this.
Yeah, I think the neighborhood was thirsty. You know, I mean, there were some great beer bars in the neighborhood, but nothing that kind of hit that family-friendly craft beer. You know, you have the 74th Street Ale House, which has done a great job for so many years. Pub at Piper's Creek. Neither one were family-friendly, and there was a 30-block area that there was really not a whole lot to come out and enjoy craft beer with your kids, and you know, and that. So we started out as a family-friendly place, and have kind of expanded that over the years as well. But yeah, Greenwood was definitely thirsty.
Were there, when you guys were looking at locations back in those early days before you officially opened, were there other places that were kind of right in the running before you landed here in Greenwood? You
know, it's interesting because we started out, our initial plan was to be a production brewery with a small tasting room. And then if you remember, that 2008 was that big hop shortage, worldwide hop shortage. Yeah. Stainless prices were at an all-time high. We're right in the recession. We kind of changed our business plan during that time. Before that, we were looking at all kinds of different areas. I even looked down as far south as Woodland, Washington, my hometown, just north of Portland. And but you know, we knew we wanted to be in Seattle. We wanted to be in Seattle, but we started looking at outlying kind of neighborhoods. We knew Ballard was kind of growing up with that, but there was really nothing in Greenwood. We really kind of looked at a map, and I don't know if you remember, there was a website, Pub Crawler, and we put in beer destinations and just looked where all the pins dropped, and we looked at all the empty spaces, and we kind of went to those neighborhoods and kind of looked around. This one was one place we came in early, and before we kind of decided to kind of switch to a more retail format, you know, kind of a retail model with a small brewery. We kind of looked at this, and then we came back to it when we decided to go with that plan, and we're happy we did because it's turned out great for us. So.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, here you are 10 years later.
Yeah.
So, we're going to kind of come back to the whole 10-year anniversary stuff, but I do want to talk about that. Due to your success, you've been able to open a second location up north on Camino Islands. So can you talk about that a bit?
Yeah, that was something in probably the last year, about last 2 years, we started looking at kind of just looking at other areas where we could expand the retail side. We knew with you know, the whole craft beer scene is just blowing up so much, and there's so much competition out there now and everything. It's still very collaborative, but there is a lot more competition as far as shelf space, tap space, that sort of thing. We knew when we expanded, we wanted to expand on the retail side because we could support 2 breweries or 2 places with our little brewery and be able to try to sell as much beer to ourselves as we can. Jeff Erickson, who is the owner of Camino Island Marketplace in the Camino Commons up there, which is the little gathering place where the library is, and Camino Island Coffee Roasters. He's a cousin of a cousin, I guess you'd say. So we were, I ran into him at my aunt and uncle's 60th wedding anniversary about 5 years ago, and he was trying to get us up there then, and the timing wasn't right. He called in May of 2016, I guess it was, and said, hey, this place has opened up again, would you be interested? We went up and looked at it. It felt right. It seemed like a right fit for us. Okay. So that's what we did. We went up there and we kind of took over. It used to be the Collective on Tap space up there. So it was already a bar there, so we didn't have to do a whole lot. We did put in a new cooler, and we expanded the kitchen and that. But again, it was one of those things where they left, so there was kind of a void there, and we filled that void. The island was thirsty, and so we kind of just fell into those places, similar to Greenwood, where we went into a place that was looking for something like that, and there was really nothing. So,
okay. Now, how many taps are up there on Camino Island?
We have 20 taps. Right now, we go anywhere from 12 to 14 beers, our beers, and then we do have a gluten-free tap that Ghost Fish we have on as a full-time gluten-free handle. And then we have 3 cider taps, a couple wine taps.
Okay.
So
that's
similar model to here, but it's more of a focus on Naked City beers.
Okay. So, all right. So let's kind of talk about that part. Before you opened Naked City, what was your background as a brewer? A home brewer, working at other breweries?
Yeah, so I started home brewing in 1991 when I moved to Seattle. Stumbled across Liberty Malt Supply and didn't even know I could make my own beer. And stumbled in there and made my first batch in December of 91. And all my friends drank it, so I thought, well, that's pretty good. You know, maybe I'll... But it was a hobby for a lot of years, something that I always enjoyed and always entertained the idea of getting into the industry after I'd met so many great people in this industry. It's something I always wanted to do. So, but yeah, homebrewed, and then once I started writing a business plan for Naked City, Brian, my current partner here, we worked together at Vulcan. Okay. And Brian introduced me to Donald Averill, who was my partner here when we first opened. And that's kind of how that came about. We started writing the business plan for Naked City, and in the meantime, I knew I didn't want to jump from brewing 5-10 gallon batches to going into a commercial brewery space and doing that. I wanted to get some commercial experience under my belt. Okay. So I went to a buddy of mine, Tom Munoz, who's been around in the industry for a lot of years, with a lot of breweries here in the state, and then Sean Loring up at Lazy Boy. So they both gave me an opportunity. Tom let me come in at Sticks Pizza and Brewing Company in South Lake Union. It's no longer there, but that was a great opportunity to go in there and work about 4 days a week with him. And then I'd go up to Lazy Boy 1 day a week and get some experience up there. Okay. And I did that for a year before opening Naked City. So
that was very thought out on your part. Instead of doing the jump from the home brew to here we are doing commercial stuff. Let's get something in between so that I can maybe learn a bit for sure. And make less mistakes. But
well, it was also one of those things. Is do I want to take a hobby and take it to that next level and turn it into my job, and then realize that I really don't like this as much as I did when I was brewing it in my kitchen on a Sunday afternoon, or Sunday morning. So it was great, and it as it turns out, I still love it, and it's a lot of fun. So.
It's interesting that you remember the first homebrew beer that you made, and also the month and the year and all that kind of thing. What was that beer?
It was actually a stout.
Okay.
I knew that when I started out, they said make something that you can disguise a lot of flaws. And you can do that in a stout because of the dark roasty flavors and that sort of thing. So, and it was winter, it was December, so I thought, okay, it'll kind of fit with the season. And I remember it being, it was probably good to me because it was like, I made it, and it was like, wow, this didn't exist. And so it was kind of that novelty of it. Yeah. But there was a few beers in between there that I couldn't. I don't look back as fondly as I do that first stout, for sure. But they're all learning experiences.
Sure, and that's part of the fun.
Yeah,
You can
exactly.
say, okay, this is what I need to do to change this for next time.
Right,
So I don't
yeah,
have
exactly.
that taste
Exactly.
in there. Okay. So how hands-on are you now with the beers that you brew here at Naked City?
I'm pretty much involved in all the recipe designing, but Isaac, who's works with me in the brewery, it's just he and I. He does a lot of the brewing now, just the day-to-day brewing, because he gets up earlier than I do as well. So he's been great. So it's really taken a lot off of my plate that I can concentrate on other things as far as promoting Naked City and getting out there and doing other things besides just being in the brew house every day. But I am there most of the time, and we work together really well. But he really takes the lead on actual day-to-day production.
Okay. When you think back about all the beers that you've brewed here, I know you can't pick just one, but one of your favorites would be which beer?
You know, there's so many. Probably one that we don't make as often anymore, and that's just because hop availability. I couldn't get some of the hops that I needed to make it. But it was probably the very first, one of the first beers we ever made is Hoptrocity, which is Imperial Rye IPA. It was one that I started. That was the first homebrew recipe that I carried over
To the commercial side, okay.
Yeah, and made here. And we actually brewed a batch of it at Sticks, just to kind of get it out there as hey, this is what you can expect at Naked City.
Oh.
But that's probably one that I look back very fondly of. There's the one though that I think that I look forward to every year, and we brew it once a year. We released it on Father's Day as a tribute to my dad, the Yankee Drifter. It's a Pilsner. My dad was a hams guy. Hams or Oli, you know.
Yeah, sure.
So when he passed away, I wanted to brew something in tribute to him.
Mm-hmm.
So that's a beer that we brewed that I think he would have liked. He never was a craft beer. You know, he'd try my beer and it's like, oh, it's bitter. You know.
Go back to his cans.
Yeah. So it's like, well, let's brew something that I know he would have enjoyed.
Nice.
So we brew that. That again, it comes out around Father's Day every year, and we just pour it until it's gone. And that's it. So.
That's nice. That's a great way, and I think for some people that aren't into craft beer, just beer in general, that they don't think about things like that when those opportunities come along.
Right.
That you can do a memorial beer, you can do different things for birth of your son or your daughter, and these kind of things too. I think that's one of those aspects that helps make craft beer so great for what it is.
Well, it's one of those things that. And that all came about. I had a buddy who was a painter, and his dad passed away, and he did a painting just called Father. And I'm like, oh man, I wish I was an artist. That would be a great tribute. I'd love to do that. And he says, well, you are. You make beer. That's an art.
Yep.
So I started thinking about it. I'm like, oh, I guess so. Yeah. So we do. I make the Yankee Drifter for my dad. We do a beer called Betsy's Mountain we make for Brian's mom. And we make a beer called Hey Jude that for my sister-in-law that passed away a few years ago of breast cancer. So, those are great things that we can bring out and just pay tribute to these people who influenced us or inspired us or anything throughout our lives. So, yeah.
Oh, that's awesome. Speaking of the different beers that you've brewed, for people that haven't been here, some of the names are always, actually in general for a lot of the breweries, but yours in particular are inspired by cinematic things. Like talking about the Big Lebowski and some of the other beers that you guys do. Where did your love of film come into, just in general for yourself, but then also how parlayed into perhaps the name of the brewery and also the things that you do here?
That was, that was really my dad that kind of instilled that love of classic films, and I think that was just these memories of me I always had a bedtime when I was a kid, right, at like 8 o'clock. Sure. Didn't matter if it was a Saturday night when you're a little kid, it's like, all right, bedtime's 8 o'clock, you gotta go to bed. My dad would go in and wake me up after my mom went to bed and go, I want to come out and watch a movie. And we'd watch Sinister Cinema together with all the classic old black and white monster movies, Frankenstein, the Wolfman, Dracula. And I think just those films, I have such great memories of that, and I always equated if it's black and white, it's great. I always, that was for something in my head, black and white meant quality. So I just always loved classic films. And then I got into kind of film noir, and that was kind of the one kind of genre, if you will, if it is a genre. But but noir just kind of something hit me, with these great detective films, crime dramas in the 40s and 50s, early 50s. Naked City was one that was not necessarily my favorite film noir, or my favorite film, but it had a great ring to it so I started that home brewing. I was like, oh, Naked City Brewing Company. And I think it's a great film, but it had better ring to it than like Casablanca Brewing Company or something like that, but so that's where that name came from. Naked City, 1948 film noir, one of the first films shot entirely on location in New York without extras, so that really kind of just hit me, just stuck in there. So that's where Naked City came up, and I started that probably, I don't know, 5 years into my home brewing. I started calling my beer Naked City Brewing Company. Okay. When we were thinking about names for this, we kind of tossed around a lot of things, and it kind of always came back to that. And it was Donald who says, well, would you mind if we just use Naked City? And I'm like, no, I don't mind at all. I guess I started marketing it, 10 years before we opened the brewery. So, and it's one of those names that people think they hear. I recognize that. I've heard of that, and they may not even necessarily associate it with the brewery, but they know Naked City. That sounds familiar.
Right.
So.
Well, and it rolls off the tongue.
Yeah.
Obviously, you have the with your logo of incorporating some of the film noir stuff.
The Fedora Man, we call him.
Yeah. So it really worked out from a marketing standpoint too, I believe.
Yeah, and that was really kind of when we designed that, it was like, well, let's take any imagery away from naked meaning nudity and that, let's bring it to that noir angle of Naked City, with the offset, old broken typewriter offset type, and the Fedora Man and that. And then the beer names just kind of flowed from that. It's like, okay, we kind of got this cinematic theme as far as the brewery goes. So then it came up with The Spy Who Came In for a Kolsch, and, Pinkerton Porter's the Pinkerton Detective Agency, and Crossfire IPA. So, and then, of course, the Big Brewski and that, so.
No, it's awesome. I think in general, and anyone who's into craft beer kind of know when they go to the breweries, they see some of the names, and you can't help but laugh. Or think, well, that's really clever, or both, that kind of thing. Or that was kind of stupid, but I think it's probably really difficult at this point. There's so many breweries and so many beers to come up with something original that is funny or makes sense for the brewery that the beer's from and that kind of thing.
Well, that just happened the other day. We just released a new pale ale, and we sat there and like, I don't know what to call it. And it was when we put it on tap, and it's finally we're looking up, and it's like all these names are taken. We come up with a great one, we look it up, and it's like, that brewery over here has that one. Mm-hmm. So we just came up with, we call it Public Domain Pale. And I looked up Public Domain, I'm like, hey, nobody has, and I said, wouldn't it be funny if Public Domain was like trademarked? So it's Public Domain Pale. So if anybody else wants to call beer Public Domain, they can do that, because it's public domain.
Right. That's great. I love the kind of double meaning there with that beer for those people that get it. All right. Well, let's kind of definitely bring things to the present, which is your 10th anniversary, and I know you've got different things planned for the entire 2018 with 10 different beers, and you just released one like 2 weeks ago. Yeah. So if you'd like to speak to that and what we can come to expect this year.
Yeah, so going into our 10th year, we knew it was a big one, I mean, to have made it 10 years and that we really wanted to celebrate in a big way. So we had an idea late last year. It's like, well, why don't I get together with breweries and brewers that have inspired me over the years, or that have given me opportunities that have supported us, along with some new breweries that I really respect, and brewers that I think are doing some really cool things out there. So we started that. We're going to do 10 collaboration beers that will release once a month, leading up to our October anniversary. Mm-hmm. So our anniversary is October 22nd. We're going to do a big party here the Saturday, October 20th. So that's when the final beer will be released. So the first one we released, like I said, a couple weeks ago, Imperial Saison, brewed with lemongrass, orange peel, tart cherries, that we brewed with Tom Munoz. So Munoz he was one of those guys that I've probably known the longest in the industry, that really gave me that opportunity early on when we were opening Naked City. So and it's been so supportive. We just brewed with Varietal Beer Company with Chad Roberts, Chris Baum. They're opening in Sunnyside. Those guys are doing some really great things over there. So their brewery's not open yet, but should be open hopefully by summer. Brewed a triple IPA with them that's released this month. And then we're brewing with Don Spencer from Silver City, Sean Loring from Lazy Boy, Larry Rock A lot of people in the industry know Larry. He was original brewer at. He was actually the original brewer hired at Pike that never worked at Pike. Then he went on to Noggins right after that, which is no longer there, but now works for Click Distributing. And Sean O'Sullivan from 21st Amendment. So we're brewing with some really cool folks. Brewing with the folks at Pike. Just met with Art last week.
Okay.
Airways, Farm Strong Brewing, our neighbor's flying bike. So it's gonna be a lot of fun. So, and those will be released once a month leading up to our 10th anniversary, and then we'll set a keg aside, and we'll have all of them on at once, and people can try all four. We're doing a punch card, so if you come in each month, you'll get that beer. You get a punch card at the end of the thing. We'll have a nice special anniversary pint glass, commemorative glass or something that you can turn that in for.
Nice.
Also, along with that, we have a series of our Naked Sessions concerts that we're doing in conjunction with that we're working with the artists, and the artists are going to be donating to a charity of their choice for each month Naked Sessions concert. So get people out here for the beer, the shows, sports good causes, and that sort of thing. So
everybody wins.
Yeah, absolutely.
Nice.
Yeah.
And probably the last thing I'd like to ask you is, you've been here for 10 years, you've got all these plans for this year, all the things you've done in the past, so what's coming up? What do you want to have happen, say, in the next 5 years for the brewery and the tap house?
Well, we're looking, we're always looking at opportunities. If something opens up that we might do another location. But right now, this year we're really concentrating on the 10th year anniversary, looking at growing Camino. It's a challenge keeping up with that little brewery. So there's talk of maybe just doing an outside, more of a larger production brewery that would service both places. If we did that, we could do some really cool small batch stuff here. But we're open to that. We really want to, our concentration is to really go in and just really be that small neighborhood brewery or brew pub. We really don't want to get too far outside of that. So if we did anything, it would probably be another small. I think in Washington you can have 2 satellite locations for every brewery. So it'd be another probably small neighborhood brew pub. Yeah. So, but we're always open. If anybody knows of any place that has a void, let us know.
I would say Edmonds, where I'm from.
Yeah.
No offense to the guys that are there, but I think we could use something that's got all the pieces like Naked City has. Well, hey, thank you so much for taking the time. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.
And happy 10th anniversary to Naked City.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah. Cheers.